focus on what the future holds. So the morning we talked about myeloma past 25 years, then we tried to focus on the next 3 to 5 years. And now we're going to see if we can have a look into the farther future. Our first speaker is Professor Cook, and he is going to talk to us about his views in terms of diagnostics and monitoring in the next 25 years.
Hello again, it's me. I'd like to thank you all for your stamina and listening to my voice today, and also apologise for my voice. Matt, when he asked me to do this, kind of just said, well, just do what you want, because I don't have a crystal ball. But one of the things when I looked at it, and this is just looking at sort of innovations across the time period there, and you see that in recent years there's been massive technology innovations. And when you look at the published articles, most of the published articles, not surprisingly, come from the US and China. But Britland is in there with contributing quite considerably to the developments of technology going forward. So you might ask yourself, why on earth did Matt ask me to do it? Well, first of all, we couldn't think of anybody else. We know that's how he's running today. Second thing is that I ran an NHR program on in vitro diagnostics across infection, musculoskeletal, renal medicine and cancer. And one of the things that I learned through that time is the level of diagnostic innovations is quite remarkable. There's lots of things happening outside the field of cancer that you think, oh, if only somebody brought that to cancer. And with that, I kind of tried to think about ways of where technology is going to go in the future. Genomics we all know about, 3D printing, going to come back to that one. Blockchain it's not a new thing, it's been around for a while, but it's a way of looking at handling data in a more secure way that takes out a lot of the variances that exist with sort of modern databases. Telehealth we're aware of, smart sensors, touch on that a bit at the end as well, robotics, going to touch on that as well, and then digital imaging, of course. And I'm not going to mention anything really about imaging because there's an expert that's going to follow on from me going to talk about it. The thing about diagnostic innovations, the thing about pathology, I mean, we know about where we're at in pathology. Bless you, Sheila. But thinking actually about bone marrow trephines, which we've taken every patient and then do very little with beyond what we actually do with H&E stains. But of course, a big push is in digitising that. And that then opens up a whole world of spatial biology, but not only a better understanding of the disease and disease processes, but that may well lead to better, more personalised medicine. Radiology, as I said, there's a proper speaker going to come after me, but just thinking that smarter scanning may well be on the horizon. And I've listed a couple of PET scan tracers, as you'll see there, the 89ZR daratumumab. These are tracers that are being more sort of myeloma specific and therefore might provide us with better imaging going forward. But of course, as I've already mentioned, AI is going to be integral to no matter what we talk about in this space, it's going to be important. And it's going to be useful for reporting and particularly looking at the disease and the patient, as I've already mentioned at lunchtime. And then there's blood sciences. And mass spec, point of care testing technologies, cheaper diagnostics, community hub. A lot of these things exist already, but maybe don't exist in the cancer space and in the myeloma space. So maybe them evolving is going to be where we're going to see things moving forward. Just a couple of areas I was going to focus in on before I really get into the blue sky navel gazing. And you know about this, this is FISH. And Martin's already introduced the subject about the IMWG risk stratification, etc. But we do this primarily with FISH. And there are limitations. It is time-consuming, it's limited sensitivity, it's costly, and as you know, can't detect mutations. What about targeted molecular panels? Well, they exist in blood cancer already. They're fairly integral to how we deliver diagnostic and stratification pathways for patients with leukemia. And they can detect mutations. being BNA based, they do require less material, so therefore you're likely to get more success in that context. And then there's whole genome, can't even say it properly, whole genome sequencing, which is currently a research tool. It's expensive, but the power it can offer is quite significant. So in thinking about this, and talked to a number of colleagues at the IMS about this going forward, I don't know, about a kind of sort of idea of trying to project. And this, bear in mind, I'm projecting into the future, so there's no right or wrong answers, but these are just some thoughts. When you compare those three together, then we've got those red boxes for fish that I've mentioned. It doesn't detect mutations, it's time-consuming, it's costly, doesn't detect complex rearrangements. Targeted panel is mostly green, but there's a bit of red and a bit of amber in there. And then whole genome sequence looks like there's a reasonable amount of green and some travel, at least in the context of analysis time and cost. And that's because of technology developments, which are going to make it quicker to do and cheaper to run. So potentially, we might actually be doing all our patients with whole genome sequencing going forward in 10 years, whatever. Liquid biopsies, it's what people in the cancer world refer to it. We in this room call it blood. And it was Louise's point earlier about avoiding bone marrows, and definitely this is a direction of travel. But of course, our technology is going to have to up its game if we're going to be able to detect, because, you know, in myeloma, circulating tumour cells are relatively rare. Cell-free DNA has its issues. Exosomes, it's an area we've not really delved into much in myeloma, but may well be. So looking at the blood for both diagnostic and monitoring purposes may actually be a way that we can move forward with myeloma diagnostics in the future. I mean, there's already evidence out there about circulating plasma cells. These are just a couple of articles from a couple of years ago. And, in these articles, circulating plasma cells does provide a prognostic marker. And therefore, it may well be something that we can look at going forward. But as I mentioned earlier at lunchtime, this issue of balance between delving into what the tumour has at its heart as opposed to what the patient has at the heart, and you need the balance of both if we're going to get precision medicine in cancer. And that's really just a segue into the idea of actually our diagnostics for trying to categorise stratification-wise our patients is going to be important. And again, moving forward, I think that will be part of the future. You've seen this slide already. I originally put this in to describe it, but since I've described it at lunchtime, then what this does really is just remind me that, yes, at the moment we spend a lot of money doing flow cytometry, mass spec, the clonal diversity work that we do in the lab is time-consuming and expensive. However, if you project forward with technology, there may come a point where a spot of blood could actually give you a digital immune signature. They would actually incorporate all this translational work at this point and make it a real-time test. And that's where my hope is. You've seen this already, so I can just skip through it, but it's the idea of bringing things together and introduces the idea of AI. So, this is the blue sky thinking bit. So listed on the slide there are 6 technologies, shall we say. Digital twin health tracking, 3D printers for bones, brain readouts, robots, necrotics. I'll go through each of these and give you an explanation. eSkin, smelly VR. These aren't made up. These are actual technologies that exist in startup companies at the moment. And, if they fly, they will go into the next 5-10 years and they could make a difference. The digital twin health tracking is actually a scanner. Patients spend about an hour in the scanner, and what it can do is actually detect a whole bunch of biomarkers. This is a Star Trek scanner, kind of thing Dr. Bones would have, but this is actually real life and does exist. The company in the US have got this. Now, they're going to be looking at the common disease issues, cardiovascular medicine, metabolic disease, etc. But that might come into our world of cancer detection. 3D printed bones, this is about actually making prosthesis using 3D printers. But might that be something for us in myeloma? Might that be a bit of a solution for people who've got myeloma bone disease? Don't know. Brain reading robots is just absolutely fascinating. It's a Swiss company has got this, and this is where the robot can actually read the brain waves and actually function. And you think, well, what is this? How does this cross on to myeloma? Well, if you've got somebody who's got paraplegia because they've had a spinal lesion, maybe this is a new world of prosthetics we might come to. I don't know. The necrotics I just had to put in there. I can't see any connection in myeloma, but this is just weird. This is a company that basically what they were able to do is take a spider, kill it, I don't mean with a shoe, but they kind of, gassed it to death, and then turned it into a robot. And I just do struggle to work out where that's going to fit in, but it's just absolutely fascinating what people can do. E-skin. Yeah, as if society needs another reason to stop being human to other humans, e-skin is a way where you will get a potential sensation from hugging somebody virtually. Yep, it does exist. Yeah, I know. I can tell where your mind's going, Charles, with this. That's not where they're going with it, but anyway, we'll stay with that. And of course, smelly VR is basically olfactory virtual reality. To try and take the virtual reality to the next level. And again, I couldn't tie that in with myeloma, but I just love to put on the necro-robotic things, the dead spider thing. That just blows my mind. Anyway, and that's really pretty much what I came up with thinking beyond where we are just now. There's no doubt that technology is going to evolve. It's going to become quicker, faster, cheaper, more in depth, and is likely to be based off non-invasive procedures. As I said, when I ran the NHR program, we did quite a lot of work with small companies using skin sensors in renal transplant patients. And these things could monitor real-time calcineurin inhibitors as well as renal function. And it wasn't even using blood, it was actually monitoring it off sweat effectively. So the technology is massive, and I think it will come through in the end. I've made the comment about personalised medicine before, the balance between tumour and patient factors. And I know we all get a bit, Terminator about AI and it taking over the world, etc. But there's no doubt that, machine learning and artificial intelligence as an overarching area will provide the core for which in vitro diagnostics will move forward and potentially be impactful. Interesting enough, when I was preparing this, when you put into Google search and say, what will the world look like in 30 years? Most of the hits come up saying that humanity will become extinct. So I'm not entirely sure what to make of that, but that's the best I could do. So apologies for that one.